This is Behavioral and Social Theories of Learning by Amy Outlaw. This comes from Chapter 5 in our text. What are behavioral learning theories? Behavioral learning theories are defined as explanations of learning that emphasize observable changes in behavior. Behavioral learning theories have led to the role of consequences and shaping. How it all started. In the late 19th century, learning began being studied in a scientific manner. And what happened is researchers actually started conducting experiments on people and animals and on how their behavior changed according to their circumstances. Two of the researchers that became important key players in this research were Ivan Pavlov and B.F. Skinner. The behavioral learning theories that came from their research was called classical conditioning for Pavlov and operant conditioning for B.F. Skinner. Ivan Pavlov, he was a Russian scientist who was actually performing experiments on the digestive tracts of mammals, and he was doing his research on dogs and on their salivatory glands. While doing this, he actually stumbled upon something that became a key role in behavioral learning theories. Pavlov noticed that the dogs would automatically start salivating when their meat was introduced to them. Since there was no training to provoke that response from them, he considered it to be an unconditioned response, therefore no training. The meat also had no prior training, so it was an unconditioned stimulus. Pavlov was very intrigued by this, and he began ringing a bell each time he introduced the meat to the dogs. And what he found when he did this was the ringing of the bell actually started provoking the salivation just like the meat had done. And that's why he called this a conditioned response and conditioned stimulus. It meant that he had taken neutral stimuli, which was the ringing of the bell, and introduced it with the meat, and all of a sudden gave the ringing of the bell the power to provoke just like the meat had. Pavlov's experiments and research proved that unconditioned stimulus and neutral stimuli can be combined in order to provoke a desired response. This is what he termed classical conditioning. It meant that what once was thought of as involuntary reflexes could be modified in order to manipulate behavior. The way that this could be used in a classroom is if you had, for instance, a high school classroom and you have a teacher who has a particular folder that they bring in or that they have sitting out every time that they introduce a quiz to the class, all of a sudden the class is going to start knowing to look for that folder. And when they see that folder, they may start cramming for a pop quiz because they have all of a sudden realized that the folder relates to quiz. In an elementary classroom, a teacher may use a bell to signal center time. The students can be conditioned to know to listen for the bell. When they hear the bell, they know what to do. They've been conditioned. Their response is conditioned, and the ringing of the bell will become a conditioned stimuli. In both of the examples, the students' responses had been conditioned, and what was once neutral stimuli, the ringing of the bell or the folder, have become conditioned stimulus. If this is the case, teachers have an opportunity to manipulate students' automatic response to almost any circumstance. B.F. Skinner is the one who had operant conditioning. He focused his work on a class behavior that he labeled operant conditioning. Skinner studied subjects that he placed in controlled situations and observed the changes in their behavior. He used a box that he termed the Skinner box. He used rats and pigeons in this box to study their behavioral changes. He believed that reflexive behavior only accounted for a small portion of all actions. Skinner used this box, like I say, he had rats in it, and what would happen is they would accidentally press a lever. And when that would happen, a pellet of food would pop out. And what he noticed is after so many accidental hits on the lever, the animals actually started hitting the lever on purpose in order to get the food. They were conditioned and taught that once they hit that lever, food come out. What this meant was that behavior could be changed or conditioned according to circumstances or consequences. This led to the role of pleasurable and unpleasurable consequences in order to modify behavior. Just like in the rats and the pigeons' behaviors had been conditioned, teachers can also condition the behaviors of their students. By using reinforcers, teachers can strengthen good behavior and weaken bad behavior. For example, a rambunctious young student who likes to shout out while the teacher is talking, she can use negative reinforcers such as taking away part of their recess time or even moving their clip down to a bad choice color, which is used in a lot of elementary classrooms. And this is using a negative reinforcer to try to correct the behavior. If the same student is being quiet during class when the teacher is talking, she can also use a positive reinforcer, such as praising the child or even giving a reward, maybe something out of the treasure box, and that reinforces the good behavior, which should also help minimize the bad behavior. In order for a teacher to effectively modify a behavior, they must first clearly explain to their students exactly what is expected of them. Because of the research and experiments of theorists such as Pavlov and Skinner, we now have a better understanding of why behavior occurs. We also have an understanding of how behavior can be shaped and modified. And one of the most important components of behavioral learning theories is the fact that behavior is a direct result of consequences. In order for teachers to minimize undesired behavior, they must use consequences or reinforcers in order to weaken that behavior. In order for teachers to increase a desired behavior, they must reinforce it. Teachers can guide students toward what is expected of them, and this is called shaping. Reinforcement of behavior, no matter negative or positive, must be done immediately in order to be successful. And what this means is if that rambunctious child is being quiet during lecture time, the teacher should praise them right then and not wait a couple of days. The textbook referred to an example of learning the alphabet for elementary students. You wouldn't wait for the child to learn all 26 letters of the alphabet and then praise them. You would praise them as they would learn 2 or 3 at a time. The role of consequences. The discovery of the role of consequences in modifying behavior has become one of the most important components of the classroom. By using positive and negative reinforcements, teachers are able to modify how students behave. Pleasurable consequences strengthen behavior, and unpleasurable consequences weaken behavior. When teachers want students to behave a certain way, they have to begin shaping that behavior in the students. This means that the teacher must effectively relay what is expected of them, and the teacher must then effectively reinforce each student's behavior until the desired result is achieved. Shaping is attained by positive and negative reinforcers. Shaping can be a powerful tool in the classroom, but it is not necessarily permanent. Once reinforcement of behavior is stopped, the chances of the behavior becoming weakened are increased. For example, if a misbehaved student begins displaying desired behaviors and then the reinforcers are all of a sudden taken away, the student may revert back to the negative behavior that they were displaying before. In order for a teacher to be effective, an intentional teacher, they must understand how behavior affects the classroom. Teachers have the ability to take what was once reflexive behaviors and condition them to create desired responses. The shaping of a student's behavior begins on the first day of class, and it is a continuous process. The intentional teacher will use these behavioral learning theories to guide students to be successful and capable learners.